Jami Glenn.
I love it. Thanks so much. Thank you, thank you. All right, we're gonna hit the ground running, okay? So here's the metaphor that we're working with tonight. And some of you who have never met me, you see this slide and you're like, your child is an apple tree. What woo-woo stuff is this? I promise you this metaphor works, okay? So when I am coaching students, when I'm coaching families and kiddos, whether that be like private coaching or at the Springfield Dream Center or at local school districts, we talk about how every human being is like an apple tree. But tonight we're gonna focus on the kiddos, okay? So here is the lay of the land. If our kids are like an apple tree, the apples are the behaviors or the emotions that we are seeing all day long. Typically, what happens is we pick off these like quote unquote bad apples, but what happens as soon as we pick off one bad apple? Anybody?
Another one.
Yeah. In the back. I love it. She knows it. She knows her stuff. She's like, another one grows right up on that apple tree. Yes. So all day long we are picking off these apples, but we feel stressed, overwhelmed, and like it's Groundhog Day over and over again because the behaviors continue. And our kids feel nagged. There's disconnection. So it's not a win. So before we get started, I always like to get the lay of the land of who's in here and kind of some of the behaviors that we see, okay? I am not gonna go one by one and tell me all of the behaviors that you're seeing in your home. We're not gonna do that. But what we are gonna do is, whoever you're sitting by, and if you're not sitting by somebody, maybe like turn around if you feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, you can just do it in your head. But here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go popcorn style between you and a partner, and you're just gonna start saying some of the behaviors that you see in your kiddo, okay? Or kiddos. So that could be things like lying, cheating, slamming doors, biting, like anything is fair game, all right? So take like 60 seconds and popcorn back and forth on the behaviors that you're seeing in your home. Go.
What about
The other day, he's like, I don't want to get
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and keep going because honestly, we could probably go, many of us could go a very long time with all the behaviors that we're seeing in our households. So here is what normally happens in traditional parenting. In traditional parenting, we focus on the fruit all day long. We are focusing on those apples. It might look like coaching the behaviors. It might look like removing fun activities, removing screen time, time out, time in, grounding, all of these different traditional parenting tactics, but sometimes they just don't work. So what we're gonna talk about tonight is instead of focusing on the fruit, we're gonna focus on the roots. There are 5 roots to every behavior. When I say every behavior, I mean your kid's behavior, your mother-in-law's behavior. Every behavior can be directly aligned with one or sometimes all 5 of these roots. I am a school counselor, public school teacher at heart, so I'm a sucker for alliteration because it makes things sticky to your brain. So all of these roots happen to start with the letter B, all right? So we've got balance. Balance is your ability as the parent to stay emotionally regulated or in your center, in your emotional center during some of these triggering behaviors, some of these like big behaviors that you're seeing from your kiddos. That's balance. We've got brain, okay? The brain is the 3 brain states, all right? We are not going to dive into that today, but if you guys have questions on that, I am always happy to talk about the 3 different brain states that every kiddo is in, every human being is in at any point in time. Then we've got the body, which is the nervous system, okay? So the nervous system is constantly working. Whether they are working in your kid's favor or not, it doesn't really matter. The nervous system is constantly working, and we've got to have a knowledge base about what's happening in our kids' bodies during these big behaviors and big emotions. Then we've got boundaries. That's where we're going to land tonight. Just for the first few minutes, I'm going to give you a couple of tools, a couple of ideas about boundaries, and then we're going to open it up to a Q&A, okay? And if there are no questions, then I'll just keep on rolling with the boundary workshop. And then the last one is the beliefs. Beliefs are just the thoughts that we have on repeat, okay? So all of these roots, when we focus on these roots and we heal the roots, the fruit takes care of itself, okay? So again, tonight we're gonna focus a little bit on the boundaries, all right? Okay, so I'm gonna skip a few slides just to make this like real. I know we have an hour, so I'm gonna skip a few slides, and this is gonna be one of them, okay? I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to spoon feed you what is the goal of boundary setting, all right? The goal of boundary setting is to guide our kids in developing decision-making skills that help them gain self-control and responsibility for their own behavior. Everybody go, right? This is the goal. The goal is that when I'm setting these boundaries for my kiddos, the goal is that someday in the near future, hopefully, my kiddo will make a good choice even when I'm not in the room. They won't have to go and be like, hey, Mom, can I do this? They won't, like, over and over and over, asking me all the time about, Mom, can I get on the screen? Mom, can I get on the iPad? Mom, can I go outside? When I'm setting my firm boundaries, they will know these answers already, okay? So that is the goal. And then also the cool part about it is that this gives parents the freedom to make fewer decisions during the day. How many of you feel like a general manager for your kiddo all day long, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm raising my hand too. There are days where I'm like, oh my word, you know that answer, right? So the goal, when we hit this goal of boundaries, it actually gives us the freedom to make fewer decisions. Okay, I'm gonna tell you a quick research study that I just find fascinating. Okay, so a team of landscape architects, okay, they created a playground, and this playground was like state of the art, okay? So great slide, great monkey bars, like all the really, really fun things, all right? They did 2 of these playgrounds, all right? They took a preschool classroom, and they just wanted to see what would happen, okay, when they allowed these preschoolers to go out and play on this brand new playground set. So it's one group of kids, and there's 2 different playgrounds. Okay, one playground had a fence around it, and the other playground didn't have a fence, okay? So I want you to guess, all right? You can like whisper to your shoulder partner what you think. What do you think happened to the kids when their teacher was like, okay guys, it's time to go play for recess? What do you think happened with the kids that had no fence? Whisper to the person to the side of you. What do you think happened? Okay. How many of you think that we're still looking for these kids? We have no idea where these kids went. How many of you think that? We're like, we still, actually, the study isn't even over because we don't know where these kids went. How do you think that? Okay. How many, actually, just tell me, what do you guys think? What's an idea?
They stayed where they were at.
They stayed where they were at? Okay, great. Yes, what do you think, babe? Okay, you think they had more fun. They're like, freedom. Okay, I love it. Okay, so that's the guesses for the no fence. What are the guesses for the fence?
They tried to get out.
They tried. They're like, let me out. I'm trapped in this fenced area. That's hilarious. Here's what actually happened. Playground without a fence, okay? No fence at all. Those kids didn't even go on the playground. They just stayed by their teacher the whole time. They had no idea what to do because there's a playground equipment here, there's a big open yard, no fence. They had no idea what to do, so they just stayed real close to their teacher. Playground with a fence, they went all the way to the perimeter. They played, they got their soccer balls, they went out to the field, they played all over the equipment. This is such a great analogy for boundaries because so many times as parents, we think that if we give our kids boundaries, that actually we're being too strict and they won't be free and they won't be independent. But that's actually not what happens. Our kids, when given boundaries in the way that we're going to talk about, in a healthy way, they actually gain that sense of freedom, that sense of independence, because they know where the boundary is. How many of us have worked for a boss where there was like, you had no direction and you didn't really know what he or she wanted? How frustrating on a scale of 1 to 10 was that? Like 12, right? So the same is true in parenting. When we actually set these boundaries, our kids, they get all of these needs met. Safety. I know if it's a yes and I know if it's a no. Self. I learn where my autonomy starts and stops. Curiosity. I can explore the world in a safe way. Creativity. I can see where the stopping point is and I know how and with whom I can play with. And then independence. I can confidently explore and play and push my limits within my limits. That's what boundaries do for our kiddos, okay? All right, so we're gonna talk about what the 4 tenets of really healthy boundaries, okay? We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna land on this slide for a few minutes. You guys are gonna talk to one another, and then we'll kind of see where we're at on if we're wanting some more content around boundaries, okay? So here's what we're looking for when we are talking about boundaries. Actually, you know what? Like put a thumbs up if you know the 4 types of parenting. Okay. I'm going to back up for just a second because this is important for this kind of authoritative talk. There are 4 types of parenting, okay? If you can look at these pictures do a really good job of depicting the 4 types of parenting. First one is authoritarian. This is like it's my way or the highway, okay? The top right is authoritative, all right? This is where you enforce rules, but you do it in a really positive, connected way, okay? The third type is permissive, where it's just like, I don't really have any rules, and it's just like, oh, well, kids will be kids. Like you go to the house and like lamps are broken, and you know, like the mom is just like, I don't know, man, my kids are crazy, right? That's permissive, okay? And then it's uninvolved. For whatever reason, you are in a season where you are providing little to no guidance for your kiddos. Every parent falls within one of these throughout your parenting journey. Now, some parents do fluctuate between several of these, right? Depending on your season. If you're really, really busy at work, you get home and you're like, my nervous system is shot. I am a permissive parent right now. I'm like, kids, just stay in this room. I'll like throw you chicken nuggets and then we'll be okay, right? Oh, sorry. Where'd she go? I'm like really hitting that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, so we kind of waver, okay, right? Between all these different parenting styles. Now, here's something that's really important about parenting. The brain is a pattern-making, predicting machine, which means that it will exert as little energy as possible. What does that mean? That means that if I don't intentionally change the course, I will parent the way that I was parented. Okay? How many of you have been like, oh my gosh, I sounded like my mom right then? Right? Okay, we've all been there. So when you're thinking through this, I want you to just mentally note right now, okay, what type of parent did I grow up with? Or parents. Many of us grew up with an authoritarian. My way or the highway. We don't do feelings. We're terrified to make a mistake, okay? Some of us grew up with an authoritative parent. We had enforced rules, but there was connection with it. Some of us had permissive parents. Okay, one or the other was a permissive parent, and we knew which one it was, right? Like I can get away with anything with mom, right? That's the permissive one. And then some of us had uninvolved parents. So tonight, right here, you guys are actually building a foundation to do it differently or do it in a way that feels really, really good to you. Okay, so just know when those moments come when you're like, gosh, I showed up in a way that I didn't want to show up, or I sound just like my dad right now, just know that is your brain swinging back to childhood, swinging back to what it knows, okay? So those are the 4 types. Here's what research says. Actually, what do you guys think? Which one is the healthiest parenting style? In the back, man. Authoritative, you're on a roll here. I love it. Authoritative. Okay, that one is the healthiest. That's like our goal, okay? That is our goal. All right, so now that we have those, here are the 4 tenets, the 4 pillars that we're really looking for when we're talking about setting boundaries. The first one is clear. It is a clear yes and a clear no. Okay, so many times, if I am coaching a family and I will say, the kid will say like, I stomp my feet in anger. And I will say, okay, is that okay for your family? And then the parents are like, well, I mean, sometimes. Is that clear? No. I gotta know as a kid, this is a yes behavior or this is a no behavior. And if I have 2 parents in the home, they need to be on the same page about that, okay? So if they're not on the same page, then that can be your homework of like, okay, listen, we got to get our behavior. We got to figure out which behaviors we are yes and which behaviors we're a no. Okay? Clear. Consistent. Not affected by my mood. Okay? Which means that my kid isn't like, oh, mom's in a good mood today, so I need to ask her if I can go out on Friday night today. Right? It's not affected by my mood. Firm. Parent is clear and confident. So it's not like I guess. I hear this a lot with screen time, right? Like the kid will be like, hey, can I get on the iPad? And the dad is like, oh, I guess, right? So they're not confident, or they're not firm, right? And then kind, with empathy, and this is super duper important, no sarcasm, okay? Because a developing brain does not truly understand sarcasm until older teens. Now, you might have some teens in the home that you're like, oh no, they get it. They get sarcasm. But when we're talking about that authoritative, healthy, connected relationship, sarcasm is not a win when you're using it with your kiddo, okay? Especially like towards their behavior, all right? So out of these 4, talk to your shoulder partner. Which one are you a rock star at? You're like, oh, I got that one down. And then I want to know which one are you like, that one would be a growth opportunity for me. So you're naming the one that you are like solid in, and then the one that you're not, out of clear, consistent, firm, and kind. So my top one and then my bottom one. Go. Which one is yours? I won't share with the group. Oh, but I am mic'd. I'm glad I remembered that. I'm like, here, talking to the mic. Hey, Jackie, can you be with her? Because I'm mic'd. I said I won't tell the group, and then I'm like, oh, but yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Looking at them, I almost feel like that consistent would be like the easiest one to blame on if you're just tired one day. You're like, I just don't have it. No gas in the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. For sure.
But maybe that's just how I'm getting.
What about you guys? What was your best?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good. I like that. You look like a kind person. You're a kind mom. What about you? No, that's cheating. You have to say which one you're good at. Which one am I like confidently good at?
She's not a mom.
I'm not a mom.
Oh.
She's my
She's what?
my friend.
I love that.
Friend aunt.
Perfect. I love that. Well, then you're around the kids though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yes. Okay. So you still are setting boundaries. So out of those, which one are you the best at, you feel like?
Probably the same as mine.
Kind. Okay, great. So you've got two kind people in the house. I like it. I like it. I like it. All right. Okay, so how many of you clear is where you struggle? Okay. Consistent? Yeah. Firm? Okay. And kind. Okay, all right. So this is good because this is awareness, right? So you guys have like an action step of like, okay, listen, I'm going to really, really focus in. I'm going to celebrate whichever one I'm really good at. And then I'm going to like really hone in on how do I focus on growing the one that I could use a little bit of growth in, okay? All right, so we're going to skip around because I want this to be super duper helpful for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to go through the first two things that when we're talking about boundaries, these are like the first two levels of response from the parents, okay? The first level of response. Somebody give me like, okay, not a level 10 behavior. Give me like a level 3 to 4 behavior that you see from your kiddo or a kiddo. Oh, how interesting. You're trying to like coach the behavior and they're like, I can't see you. That is awesome. Okay, so that's a great level 3 to 4 behavior. That is perfect. Okay, so let's say that my kid is not sharing their toy, and I go in and I'm like, hey, bud, you've got to share your toy, right? And then they're like this, okay? Okay, number 1, my first level of response is playful engagement. Now listen to me. Every parent in this room, none of you are going to want to playfully engage with that, right? Because you're like, get your hands off your face, right? You don't want to playfully engage. But when we are talking about setting these boundaries in that firm, kind, consistent way, playful engagement is number 1. Because here's the deal, you guys. 9 times out of 10, okay, and sometimes like 9.8 times out of 10, when you respond with playful engagement, guess what happens? Hands come off, right? It works. So whatever your level 3 or 4 behavior is, if you can meet it with playful engagement first, 9 times out of 10, that behavior takes care of itself. And then you don't have this big meltdown fight where it's like 2 hours later, I don't even remember what we were fighting about, right? So here's what playful engagement looks like, okay? Literally saying, hey, redo that. That's a really good one for disrespect, okay? Disrespect is a huge trigger for a lot of people, especially if you grew up in an authoritarian household where you were not allowed to talk back. So if you sense a hint of disrespect, sometimes it's very triggering for parents, right? Okay, knowing that and just saying, hey, redo that, please. Okay, that, I'm not saying like get down on the ground and play a board game. That is not playful engagement. We're really wanting to like keep it going, right? We don't want this like behavior to blow up and ruin the entire night. So redo, act it out, okay? Which could be you, like in this situation, literally you could be like, oh my goodness, are you ready to play peekaboo? Peekaboo, like this. Ridiculous, right? Like your 5-year-old is going to be like, what is happening to mom? That's okay. Now I've got his eyes, and that's all I need out of this. I just need his eyes, right? So I'm playfully acting it out. Also saying, try that again. Probably on this one, not a great one. Try that again could be like if I'm like, hey, bud, can you clean up the table? And then he shoots like the whole McDonald's tray into the trash can and it goes everywhere, right? Okay, I could be like, oh, try that again, right? Like, let's try that one again. Okay, so that's try that again. Make it a game. All right, oh, peekaboo, perfect. That was a perfect one. Okay, so make it some sort of game. Or if it's like a race, the next one is make it a race. Okay, so if I at this age, what do your kids do that's very, very slow and so frustrating? Give me one thing. Oh my gosh, walk to the car. How long does it take you to get to the car, right? Especially in the morning when you're late, right? Okay, so playful engagement would be making it a race. Hey, and if you don't want to race, I get it. So then you could say like, hey, I'm going to count to 15. Now listen, this is different than me going 1, 2, where it's like I'm counting until I get to 3 for the behavior to change. That's a different counting. This counting is where he or she is racing to the timer. So I might be like, I'm going to count to 20 and see if you can beat that to the car. And I'm like, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. And they start going super fast. Another one, if you have a kiddo who's musically inclined, you can like say, hey Siri, play Frozen, I don't care what it is. And they have to beat, their task is to beat the song. Okay, so like by the end of this song, you need to be in that car, whatever it is. But we're making it a game, we're making it a race. Anytime you do that, brushing their teeth, that's not why. Why do kids hate brushing their teeth? But they do. So that's a really easy one where you're like, okay, I have this. Somebody give me a song that your kid likes right now. Anything? That's maybe not appropriate. Where you're like, oh, what is it?
Apache, like jump on it.
Okay, I love it. So you crank that up and you're like, you brush your teeth until the end of that song. That's great. Okay, opera voice is one of my favorites, you guys. Okay, here's the deal. Okay, so you're like, hey, get in the car. No one gets in the car. Hey, get in the car. No one's getting in the car, right? So then you go into opera voice, okay? And I'm gonna cover this mic. And it's like, get in the car, like that. Here's the reason. Number 1, it massages the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the emotional highway, okay? If you can calm your vagus nerve, which starts in your brainstem, goes behind your throat, hits all of your organs, if you can calm that vagus nerve, then it's like it sends text messages to your whole body to stay regulated, okay? So opera voice, all right? This is like my favorite because my kids know now if I'm opera voicing, they're like, oh gosh, this is the last ditch effort. Like, we got to do whatever she's telling us to do. She's singing an opera, okay? So try that, opera voice, okay? How many of you already do that? I do. Okay, great. How many of you hum? Like you're like, Do any of you guys do that throughout the day, throughout the workday? Same idea. That is your nervous system trying to regulate through the vagus nerve. Isn't that cool? Bodies are amazing. Okay, dance party. Dance party is a great way to get connected. So if you know that your kid is going to have to do something that they don't want to do, have a dance party right before it. Like 60 seconds of a dance party, get their like wiggles out, get connected, get some laughter, because we're playfully engaging, and then have them do what they need to do, have them do the task. Okay, so that's, and then the last one is rewind. It's just movements is fun. Movements is literally where you pretend, now some kids this is triggering to them, but you like, mimic what they're doing, not in a sarcastic way, but it's like, look at me going in slow motion to the car. Okay, I'm just playfully engaging. Your kid's gonna look at you and maybe roll their eyes. I mean, your kids are little, so maybe not, but we just need a smile. We need a laugh because they are either in protection or connection at all times, any human being. Protection mode, connection mode. As soon as I can get laughter and eye contact, they are now in connection mode, and they are much more willing to do what I've asked them to do, okay? The last one is rewind, where this could be another good one, like slamming of the door, okay? So they slam the door and you're like, rewind, and you like go in rewind mode for them, and then you're kind of like closing the door for them, maybe even Matrix style, right? Like you're just being so silly. Now, again, it's a Tuesday night, and many of you have been at work all day. And you're like, that is the last thing that I want to do. I totally get it. I'm just asking you to try it because I think you will be shocked at how quickly you can navigate these big behaviors and big emotions through playful engagement, okay? The last one, and then we're going to go to Q&A, okay? The last one that we're going to talk about is structured engagement. That's level 2. So level 1 is playful. Let's say, okay, so kids' eyes are like this. he or she is hiding from me, I playfully engage. I'm like, oh, peekaboo, show me your eyes. And that doesn't work, okay? All right, great. Now I'm just gonna go to the next. My next one is structured engagement, and this is love and logic. How many of you guys have done love and logic before? Oh, great. Okay, if you haven't, I'm so excited for you because I think it's gonna be a game changer for you, okay? Love and logic has 2 tenets, consequences and choices, okay? Consequences, we've been talking about boundaries. Consequences are natural and logical consequences that teach a child through cause and effect, okay? So, I tell my kid to stop running in the house, said kid falls over a chair. That is a natural consequence, right? Like, hey bud, that is a bummer. I did tell you not to run and that's the exact reason why, okay? That's a natural consequence, okay? Logical is when it attaches to the behavior. So let's say I tell my kid to get off the iPad and then I go in their room like 20 minutes later and guess what they're doing? They're on their iPad, right? So then a logical consequence would be what? What would a logical consequence be? Yeah, like, oh, bummer, iPad's in timeout for the rest of the night. That's such a bummer. That's a logical consequence. It's connected to the behavior, okay? The other thing about love and logic is choices. You give 2 choices that are a win-win for both of you, okay? I'm not gonna go through any more slides because I just wanna land it here for just a few minutes, okay? Okay, so this is like, let's give some examples about choices, because for some of you, if you were raised in a different household, like authoritarian, even permissive or uninvolved, this might be totally new to you, a new idea. Choices are where you give the kiddo 2 choices that both work for you, okay? You don't care what they choose. You just need them to choose one of the 2. Let's give some examples, okay? So your kiddo is not wanting to get ready for school, okay? And they're like, I can't find anything to wear. And you're like, oh, well, let's wear this one. And they're like, no, I hate that one. Okay, cool. Here's a couple choices. You can wear the yellow shirt or the blue shirt. You get to decide. Guess what happens in their little brain as soon as I say that? Their little brain, their prefrontal cortex lights up because they think they have independence and ownership, okay? Do I care what he decides to wear? No, you just gotta get dressed and we gotta get out the door. I don't care. But as soon as I give that kiddo 2 choices, they get to decide. They get to make the choice, okay? Give me another example. Not of choices. I love this crowd participation. What is another example of a behavior? Oh, sorry.
They don't brush their teeth. You can get cavities or you can
This is good. I like this. She said, if the behavior is they don't want to brush their teeth, you can get cavities, kid, or you can brush your teeth. That is right. Those are 2 good choices. Here's the deal. As the mama, I don't want to pay for the dentistry, right? So perhaps for me in our house, let's take it back to playful engagement. You get to choose to listen to the Frozen soundtrack or Moana. You get to decide. Which soundtrack do you want to listen to while you brush your teeth? I don't care what soundtrack you listen to, but that's your choice. They get a sense of ownership and independence, and as soon as they feel like they have a little bit of control, that's all they're wanting in that point in time. Okay, so I just say, do you want to listen to Moana or Frozen? Do you want to do the blue toothbrush or the pink toothbrush? It doesn't matter. The behavior, what I want is that I want you to brush your teeth, but I'm going to give you some choices that you can decide in what way you brush your teeth. Does it make sense? Yes, question.
When you do that,
yes.
They cannot make a decision and they start crying.
For sure.
Falling.
For sure.
Cannot make a decision.
Mm-hmm. Are you speaking from experience? Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Okay, so there are a couple things, okay? First off, the question is, okay, cool. It sounds really great. We're all adults and we're all regulated. And we're like, oh, great, we'll just give 2 choices. And then your kid throws a curveball. And they're like, I don't like those choices, right? Okay, so here's the deal. In those moments, I want you to say, great, I'll choose for you. And typically what your kid will say is, well, what will you choose? And then just make one up. I'll choose the blue toothbrush. You know what your kid's gonna say? I wanted the pink one. Okay, great, good choice. There you go, pink one. So I'm like tricking them into making the choice. Now, sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's like a total, it's, wait. Give me the scenario.
My 4-year-old daughter.
Okay.
I lay out different things.
Sure.
I know she's gonna change her mind.
For sure.
So lay them all out. I'll even do 2 choices. She'll say, I can't choose, it's too hard, I can't choose.
For sure.
Then I'm gonna choose.
Uh-huh.
I don't like that one.
For sure.
Okay. Then you choose, and then she can't make a decision.
Okay, is it truly the full outfit?
Sometimes it's the shirt that I picked wrong. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
Sometimes it's I don't want to wear pants. I want to wear shorts.
Sure.
I don't want to wear a dress. And
Sure.
I don't want to wear a shirt.
Absolutely. So I think for that one, that's a really, really great example.
She's super strong-willed. I mean, like.
Yeah, and a fashionista apparently. She wants to know. Yeah. Okay.
We should be friends. Yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
That is the hair.
Perfect. Okay, a couple of things. I love the question. I would probably tweak it to where the choice isn't necessarily, well, okay, this is how I would do that. I would set a timer. And I would say, hey, you have 60 seconds. I cannot wait to see what you decide. Either that or music. Okay, music is a great regulator for kids' nervous systems. So if you could somehow implement music in that as well. Are you smiling because you're like, I've tried it? I've tried it.
We had the same issue with like bedtime too. Like she'll get like to where she takes a nap at Tiger Call, she'll fall asleep, and then she has the whole, like different things, and I try all kinds of different things.
Sure.
Repeats over and over that she can't fall asleep.
Okay, so then here's the cool part about these workshops. There are 4 other routes, right? And so I would say for you, we need to talk about brain states, okay? Because she's not in her wise owl brain. She's in her watchdog brain, okay? And for others, you're like, what the heck does that even mean? There are different brain states, okay? And depending on what brain state our kid is in will depend on how we need to respond. So for you, it doesn't sound like a boundary issue for this particular thing. It sounds like you are doing a really great job of like giving her the buckets. Either this or this, right? And it's got to be so frustrating because everybody, is like, just do this. Sure. That's the other thing I was going to say. Okay? The other thing that we have to keep in mind, okay? The biggest predictor of our child's ability to emotionally regulate, which means we are not looking for calm, okay? We're not looking for like Zen all day long, like, oh, everything is great and nothing makes me upset. That's not real life. We need to like train our kids to move with these emotions. Same thing for us, right? So the number one predictor of a child's ability to emotionally regulate is what? Take a guess. What do you think it is? Say it again.
Our emotion.
Oh, ding, 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 ding. That's the bummer part of it, you guys. You all thought you were here to learn about your kids, but now I'm going to be like, it's us. We're the problem. It's Taylor. I'm the problem. It's me. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to tell you the science. Okay, here's the science. I'm standing here as the mom. If my child is in a 10-foot radius, this goes for parents, this goes for teachers, okay? If my kid is within 10 feet of me, their nervous system is actually regulating to my nervous system. I'm like a walking Bluetooth to my kid. Their heart rate matches my heart rate. Their breath rate will match my breath rate. Their body temperature will regulate to my body temperature. Isn't that fascinating? Okay, that's cool. And what a bummer, because that means it's on me, right? Like if I am not regulated, my kid has no shot at getting regulated. So when we talk about these situations where your kid has been screaming for seemingly hours, and sometimes not seemingly, sometimes it's like legit, I'm like, wow, we're on 2 hours and 18 minutes here. How difficult is it for you to stay regulated in that moment? It's very, very hard. If you are not regulated, though, your kid has no chance. So some of you, your homework is literally, that's your takeaway, and you're like, okay, you know what? I got to get some tools in my tool belt so that I can get regulated in those moments, right? Because this is these behaviors, this is why parenting, it can be so difficult, because you have like just little humans just triggering triggering you left and right with their behaviors, right? So that's why it can be so difficult. But I, as the parent, I have got to commit to getting emotionally regulated in those moments. Okay, what does that look like practically? Okay, so if I'm over here and my kid is like melting down and I'm like, hey bud, it's totally fine. It's not a big deal. We'll get you the toy or whatever it is. Can you hear it in my voice? I'm dysregulated. So sometimes that means like I've got to go out in the hallway, wherever I am, I got to go out. Like maybe I got to put my feet on the ground. It's sunny, finally. Maybe I need to go outside and get some vitamin D for like 2 minutes and then I come back in, okay? Maybe I have to like go to the kitchen sink and like run cold water over my hands just to take a beat, okay? An emotional wave, and it is a wave, an emotional wave lasts no longer than 90 seconds. So when you have a wave of frustration, you got to ride that sucker for 90 seconds tops. So what do you need to do for those 90 seconds? Ride that wave of frustration and then get back in the game so that you can regulate your kiddo. Does all that make sense? That was a really, really solid question. Very good question. As I'm talking, what else is coming up for you guys? Yes.
Along with this outfit situation.
Please.
Sometimes I feel like the choices are too much.
Yeah.
To switch back to those parenting types of like,
Yes.
I think I just need to say, this is what we're doing.
Great.
Be firm. And then maybe the next time it rolls around, she will make a choice because she knows
That's great.
if she doesn't, that's it.
That's great.
I feel like that, I don't know if that's right, but I think that sometimes helps.
How do you feel in your, like as a mama, how do you feel when you do that?
I don't love it.
Okay.
It's hard.
What part is hard?
Follow through with it.
Yeah.
It's like, we're doing this. And then the
Yeah.
loud screaming.
Yes.
And, but I'm like, well, I can't back down now. So it's
Yeah.
hard. But I do think, we were commenting on this earlier too, with like our older son.
Yeah.
Knowing that being consistent and sticking to those things will pay off eventually. Like,
Absolutely.
It's hard right now, but if I stick to this and I keep doing this,
Yep.
someday
Mhm.
it's gonna be easier.
Yeah, I have 2 older.
Yeah.
So, it's,
So you know.
it is, but they're boys. So it's
Sure.
totally different.
Yeah, it's totally different. Yeah. But that is a really good point that sometimes, and it's sometimes an audible, like you're literally like in the room, you're like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And you pivot and you just do it confidently, right? And then you might, oh my gosh, you guys, so many times I like walk out of the room after a parenting moment. I'm like, okay, I will never do that again. That was not the right choice. That was not the right choice. That backfired. And then I go back and I repair, right? So we have the rip in the relationship and then we repair. And I say, I'm so sorry. That is not the way I want to show up as your mom. Can we do a redo? Okay? It's a really good question. Okay, what other questions do you guys have? We can keep going. I have some like different situations, but I also want to make it really practical for you guys because you are spending a Tuesday evening here. Does anyone have questions? Yeah.
So what about like fear? Like
Ooh.
we have a daughter who is scared to go anywhere by herself.
Yes.
Bathroom that's 10 feet away from us.
Mm-hmm.
You approach that.
Was there an event that was scary? Okay. Did it have?
One time at Target in Alabama
Uh-huh.
during Halloween.
This is where it always starts. It's one time at Target. That's where all the bad stories start.
I went to the other aisle and put a mask on and then came back around and
I don't really think about it.
Wait, you did this?
Because
Oh, yeah. You're like, I was playfully engaging.
but she was like one,
I
coming
don't,
up.
I don't know. So, yeah.
Okay, so and sometimes we don't know. We don't know what the catalyst is. Okay, so, but yeah, it's super frustrating, right? Because you're like, hey, you're safe. I can't just like follow you all the time. Tell me the age again.
She is almost 5.
Almost 5. Okay, and you're telling me this has been since the get-go, right? Okay, is it just with you or is it with both of you? Both of you guys. Okay, so then what that tells me, obviously, like it's like a little keyhole, right? Like I get a little itty bitty picture. But what that tells me is that she's using you guys to self-soothe. Totally fine. However, we need to bring that, like we got to bridge that a little bit, right? So how that typically works is that you go in really, really baby steps. So anybody that has a fear, right? It can be any fear, but a lot of times, especially right now, because everyone is so scared of fear and anxiety, because it's just like there's so much about it, and it is a very real and serious thing. And it is usually helpful to challenge them to, I'm not saying like face their fear, not be like, we're leaving the house for 2 hours and you're just gonna be on your own, right? But it can look like, hey, listen, you're gonna go to the bathroom and I'm gonna sit right out here for maybe like a couple of days or whatever. And then it's like, okay, so now I'm gonna stay in the kitchen while you go to the bathroom or whatever it is. So you're thinking through the ladder, okay? So I like to envision a ladder. So if my kid is down here and this is their fear, and I gotta figure out what's the ideal situation, the ideal behavior. Well, ideally, what is your ideal? Yes, like she can just go and doesn't even have to announce it. She just goes to the bathroom by herself, right? That's ideal. Okay, well, if I'm a sweet little one with a developing brain and I'm way down here where it's like I need my mom or dad at all times with me, then I can't jump her way up here. Her brain can physically not do it. So then you got to think through, what are some steps that we can take to get her to that ideal behavior? But here's the kicker. They don't do it on our timeline, right? So like if I'm like, okay, listen, we need to do this ladder thing. We're gonna do it for 4 days and then that's it. Our kids just don't respond to that because they're little human beings, right? So what I would do for you guys, like what I would challenge you to do is literally draw out a ladder, draw out the ideal, and then map out what are some steps that you guys can take. And I would even tell her that. She's 5, she can handle it, and she can be, also, you can get really good insight from that conversation with her of like, okay, here's mom and dad, here's where we're wanting you to be. Where do you feel like is it a goal of yours to be able to go to the bathroom by yourself or whatever? Like her goal might be something totally different. Like maybe her goal is just like, I wanna be able to turn off or to keep the lights on, whatever it is. I don't know what her goal might be, but she's old enough that you guys can have that conversation together, but you got to work her up to it on her own timeline. Make sense? Okay. So good news, bad news, right? Like a game plan, and it might take a bit. But think about that with any of your kiddos in fear, okay? What is their fear? That's that bottom rung. What's my ideal? And what are some steps that I can support my kiddo in getting to that ideal? Okay? It's a good question. Yes.
Okay, so like little bitty ones who can't explain what's going on. What do you suggest? Because at this point we're just like guessing what the information is or what's wrong, and we're like, you're hungry, you're tired. Let's just keep causing you to eat your emotions. So.
How old?
Year and a half, not quite 2.
Okay. Well, first off, I love it. I love that you're asking that question. Here's what I'm going to go for. Right here.
Oh, okay.
Look at you. That's a perfect segue. I didn't even pay you to do that, did I? Okay, so first off, is that your only child?
It is, yeah.
Okay, I love it that you guys are here, and I can tell you guys are high achievers, right? Because you're like, we just want to do it right. We want to do it well. You're here, front row. That's awesome. I love it. You're like this because none of the other seats, all the other seats were taken. Okay. Okay, so 17 months. Here's the deal. When I'm working with kids, I don't start until age 3, okay? Because at age 3 is when they can kind of start to get wise owl brain, watchdog brain, possum brain. We bring out some puppets. It's super fun. Up until that point, you are the tool. You are him or her. You are literally teaching him how to regulate. Now, what that means is that we're going to allow that wave of frustration, because actually it's very healthy because he's like trying them all on for size, right? It's like a closet full of emotions, right? So I've got to try on this emotion, okay? I was just talking to a mama today who about that same age, 17 months, she said, I really try to say no, don't throw things and don't all the things. And I'm like, no, she's got to feel it and then feel her nervous system come back down to regulated. The only way that he can do that is through you guys right now. He's literally borrowing your brain and your nervous system. So the foundational thing for you guys is to make sure that you are regulated in those moments.
So even if he was like chasing down a cat and hitting it? Yes, he was mine.
You mean like this hand and this cat? Yes.
Just like, and then go after him.
Yeah. So at that age, parenting is really the art of distraction.
Okay.
Honestly, it is literally like, hey, picking him up and being like, no, we're going to distract you in whatever way that we can. But you're right, like that's 17 to like 36 months. That's where they are. They're pushing boundaries. They're learning about the world. But one thing that I do find helpful across the board, no matter what age your kid is, we have got to stop assuming that our kids are doing these things like in spite of us, right? Okay, here's the deal. True or not, it doesn't matter. It does not get you to a good headspace as a parent. So when your kid for the 16th time is like chucking a rock at the house, okay, I want you to say to yourself, the question is, what skill is my kid missing? Okay, let's just brainstorm that. What skill could my child be missing if he sees a rock, picks up the rock, and chucks it at the house? What's a skill he's missing? In the back. What do you think?
He might not realize what the damage of it or something.
For sure. He might not even realize the consequences. Great. If that were the case, what would I do as the parent? What might I do to build that skill?
Let him know what the consequences are.
Yeah, yes. Like walk him through that. Like, hey, bud, when you pick up this rock, okay, and you like chuck it, right? And you chuck it and you hit it right here. What do you think might happen? And like you're literally talking about it. And in your brain, you're going to be like, he should know better. How far does he should know better get us as parents? Not very far. Because if I'm constantly like, you should know better, I have nowhere to go with that, right? Like it's like, okay, well, what do I coach then? And then I'm just like, you should know better. Well, nothing happens in that loop. So instead, if I ask the question, what skill is my kid missing? Then I have a game plan. I'm like, okay, what skill is he missing? And I could be wrong on the skill. I could guess and then try to teach him that skill. And then he does the same thing again. I'm like, oh, well, that was not the skill he was missing. Then I think about a different skill, okay? When we're talking about brain development, all right, I know I'm throwing a lot at you guys. Are you okay? Are we doing okay? All right. Yes.
I have an idea. You could,
Tell me.
You could tell him how it would impact himself if he does it.
I love that too. Yes, that's so great. How are you impacting your environment and how is it impacting yourself? That's great. Okay, let's talk about brain development really, really fast, okay? At what age is your child's brain fully developed?
I thought it was like 20 or something.
Oh, I wish. 20? Not, but it's a good guess.
26?
Great guess. So great. You guys are 27. Okay. Does anybody not have a fully developed brain in this room? Is anyone younger than 27? I love it. You're here. This is exactly where you should be. I love it. Okay, 27. It used to be 25, but now research says that it's 27 because of what? Technology. Screens. So now our kids are actually 2 years delayed. So if I have a 13-year-old in the home, developmentally, they're 11. So I also have to come at that with that knowledge as a parent. Anytime that I am thinking you should know better, I got to remind myself, listen, that brain is developing until the age of 27. And so sometimes they need to borrow your brain. I'm going to tell you a little story about my child needing to borrow my brain. We were at the doctor's the other day. I'm paying at the doctor. You guys, my kid is 11. So this is very much a situation where I could have said, you should know better. She's 11. I am paying at the doctor, and I look over, and she has just taken all the Post-it notes from the doctor's office and putting them all over her. All over her. You guys, I could have very easily been like, what are you doing? But I took a breath, and I was like, my question was like literally, okay, she needs to borrow my brain right now. And I said it. because she knows like this is what I do, so I tell her all the things. So I'm like, hey, you need to borrow my prefrontal cortex right now. And I'm like taking out these Post-its, and I was like, what do you need to do with these Post-its? Borrow my brain. And it's not a shaming way, but like she's laughing because she's like, yeah, you're right, Mom. So it's not a shaming way. I could have easily been like, oh my gosh, stop it. You know better than that, right? I could have said that, but that's not gonna help the situation at all, and it's not a learning moment for her. So then I'm like, babe, borrow my prefrontal cortex right here. What's your next best step? Right? As I'm taking them off, she starts taking them off, and then she throws them in the trash. It could have been a really kind of a bummer moment for both of us, but it turned into like a whatever. It's not even a blip on our radar, right? So what situations does your child need to borrow your brain? Let's brainstorm that right now. What are some situations where you're like, oh, that makes sense. Their brain is developing right now. Any situations at home that you can think of? Yeah.
My kid likes to lay on the dog.
Yeah.
We tell him over and over the impact that it can have on the dog and him.
Yes. Could bite him.
Or to bite him.
Sure.
And
Totally.
he's going on months now.
Yeah. How old is your son?
He's 4.
4. Okay. I'm going to tell you that's most likely the body root. He's probably needing some sensory input. He probably loves the feel. What is it, a furry dog or a? Yeah. He probably did you say your son?
Yes.
He probably loves the feel. He can probably feel like the heartbeat maybe. He can feel like his hands in the fur. That's just a sensory need, probably.
So what should I give him
Yeah.
to do?
You tell me. What would be the same kind of sensory input? Think of hands. Like if he's literally laying on the dog and just what would be the same sensory input?
Hugging me?
Great.
My heart's
Totally.
beating as well. So
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Or you could be like, hey, bud, we've talked about this. I don't want the dog to bite you, so come over here and hug the body pillow or hug the couch pillow, whatever. But that's probably a sensory input thing.
maybe a stuffed animal?
I love that idea. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Yes, that's a great idea. That's a really good one.
Fuzzy blankets like that too, but they lay on the dog as well. But they have these fuzzy blankets.
Yeah.
that they
I can't believe the dog hasn't done anything.
Totally.
Such a good dog.
Yeah, she is such a good dog. You're right. Yeah. I have one like that does that too. And sometimes in my not best moments, I'll be like, do you want us to get rid of that dog? Because it's going to bite you. And that's not great. That's not helpful, right?
Right.
So yes, it's in that sensory, just think through sensory. Now, also, at the end of this slide, I've got a QR code, and that's to sign up for my free newsletter, which I send out every Monday. If it doesn't work, please email me back and be like, hey, you're crazy, that didn't work. And then we'll brainstorm together, and we'll email some ideas back and forth. Okay? All right, what else? What other questions do you guys have? As far as think through behaviors, think through emotions, think through your own, inability to regulate. What you guys got?
What about siblings that don't want to play together?
Mm-hmm.
Ones that my oldest is 12.
Okay.
Plays with both of them, but then my middle one is 7 and doesn't want to play with the younger.
Sure.
At 4, so she's constantly that's her friend, that's her buddy, that's her, and he's like, I don't want to play, I don't want to,
Yeah.
So that's really hard because I'm just she feels like then she doesn't have any, she wants to join the boys.
Sure.
They're doing boy things.
Yeah.
But she's
Yeah.
just left out.
I get that. Do you have an idea?
Yeah, how do you
Please.
14-year-old
Oh.
and 5-year-old play together?
Oh, so many siblings. All right. Okay, well, this would come back to the root of balance, I think. What is the value that you are wanting to instill? Why is it important to you?
Because we are older parents.
Okay,
We are almost 50.
sure.
He's 5.
Okay,
She's 14. The oldest one's 25.
okay,
25-year-old's out of the picture. She's gone.
Sure.
Doesn't really talk to the kids at all.
okay.
Because she's a step in the other two.
Got it.
So we want, if something happens to us, 'cause I'm already sick. I'm not dying, but they already diagnosed with different things.
Yeah.
So if we were to pass away while he was not even 18 yet,
Hmm.
I want them to be close. Do you see my point now?
I
That's a very
have so much compassion for that. And I get it. Like that is a very real, like I think,
was raised in a foster care system.
yeah,
I was broken up when I was age 4.
yeah,
My oldest brother, I was age 9 when I was broken away from my 2 youngest ones.
yeah.
So I want them to stick together and have a strong bond.
I get that. I can feel it. Can you guys feel it? We can feel it.
What about like a family game night?
Do you guys
We
do?
do that. Actually, I do play games with them. I actually play for.
That's a great idea.
There's a sorry game we play together sometimes. It's the dogs. I forgot what it's called. Dog cartoon. Because there's so many. I show.
Bluey?
No, we.
Oh, Bluey's my favorite, guys.
Paw Patrol.
Oh,
We do watch Bluey together. We do watch Bluey together as a family. We
Sure.
explain to him too that the culture that they come from is Australia. I think
yeah, okay,
somewhere like that.
sure.
It's different. So we, even though he is slower, or in my mind he is, we explain this is actually a different culture than what we are
Yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah.
We use different things to teach and
Mhm.
to try to bond them together.
Yeah, I totally get that. I totally get that. So first off, there's some narrative in there for you, which makes total sense. When I say narrative, you've got some thoughts that are like the soundtrack for you, which makes sense, especially that little snapshot. First off, thank you for sharing that little snapshot. That gives me a little picture of, there's some loops in there of like how important family is to you. Cool, awesome. So many times with kids and any human, when we're like, you will do this and we're trying to force it, it's like herding cats, right? Like it doesn't work. So I love the idea of how do we do this as a family? Family game night, family movie night, where it's all of you together. Also, sending kiddos outside and together, like if you have a trampoline, like sending them outside to play on the trampoline. But I think also for is it a teenager, did you say? I think it would be really important for your teenager, first off, to have the conversation. You probably already have that conversation, but then also validate that, like, hey, listen, I totally get it that you're 15 and you don't really want to play with your 5-year-old brother, 5-year-old. You really don't want to play with your 5-year-old. I totally get it. This is why it's important to me. What would be a win for you here? He's 15. He definitely has an idea. So you could say a win for me is that you guys will play together after school. What would be a win for you? And if he's like, well, okay, fine. A win for me is that like, we'll play for a little bit. Okay, cool. What about 10 minutes? Is that a win for both of us? So you're like literally having a conversation because he's a developing brain and human. That's totally different than being like, go play with your sister. You know what I mean? There's a totally different posture. So I would definitely try that for you guys. What are your ages?
12, 7, and 3, and 4. Sometimes he does
Yeah.
play. It's just sometimes it's like he gets kind of irritated and it's just like, I don't want to play with you, you know.
Yeah.
She just keeps
Sure.
She's like asking and asking. And
So then for her, the time thing might be another really helpful thing for her. If she has like a visual timer and it's like on YouTube, you have timers on, like, so on the TV, you could have a timer up and it's like, hey, babe, you can play with your brothers for 10 minutes. They'll play with whatever you want to play. Yeah. Boys, get on. Like you'll have to talk.
He did that. He
Great.
Did like for 20 minutes a day, he would.
20?
Yeah.
What a sweetheart.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. I love that. But then the boundary is like, okay, kiddo, like to your 4-year-old, it sounds like then she pesters the rest of the night. So then it's like, also, it would be really probably helpful for her to have a visual of like, here's what I can do without my brothers. So you could have like, when I say visual, just like a piece of paper and you can just like put like draw board game and do like draw go outside or whatever. So give her choices. So then when she's pestering him, you give him a script of like, hey, go look at your choice board or whatever. So that can be helpful. So because if we think about what's the skill she's missing the skill of like, I don't know what to do if I'm not playing with my brothers. Right. Help her out. Mm-hmm. What can you do when your brothers don't want to play after you've done your, 20 minutes or whatever? Yeah. That's a good question. Oh, it's 7:29. That's right? Is that right?
It is right.
Okay, last thing. So all these things, look at all these things, you guys. Oh, darn it, it didn't. That's not a QR code. Okay, well, I don't know why that last slide didn't. Let me see really quickly. Because I do, here it is. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, let me present it right here. Oh, you guys, it went to the beginning. Oh my word, just escape. Technology's obviously not my strong suit. I just deal with emotions all day. I don't do tech. Okay, slideshow from current slide. Okay, if you want to, you can scan this QR code, and every Monday I send tools, tips, and scripts straight to your inbox to help you move through big behaviors and big emotions with ease. So you can scan that. There's also freebies on my website. My business is called Sacred Ground Coaching. So if you go to sacredgroundcoaching.com, there's some free resources on there. I've got like a mini video series on like how to move through any emotion. So I'm also on Instagram, Sacred Ground Coaching. I haven't been posting a lot lately because I read The Opt-Out Family. Have you guys read The Opt-Out Family? Oh gosh, it's been very convicting. But it's all about like opting out of social media, which is very difficult as a business owner who, talks to parents on social media. So I'm still kind of trying to figure that aspect out because I tell kids all the time, like, hey, get off social media, get off, it's not great for your brain, but then I'm on it. So, what do you do? What do you do? Okay, I'm happy to stay for whatever questions. I do think childcare, though, is probably wanting you guys to pick up your children. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're